Tonight's big stories. Zubiri out, Escudero in. The Senate is rocked by seismic leadership shakeup and the months of coup rumors. We'll break down all the surprise changes with new Senate President pro tempore, Jingo Estrada.
Stepping down as the Senate leader, Senator Zubiri admitted that he was heartbroken, not because of losing the position, but due to the so-called support expressed to him.
And we'll have British Ambassador to the Philippines, Laure Beaufils, to talk about what's in store for Philippines-UK trade and defense ties. Good evening, welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho, and this is the big story.
We kick off the week with a surprise leadership shakeup over at the Senate, ending months of coup rumors hounding the upper chamber. Senate President Zubiri has stepped down, replaced by Senator Escudero, who took his oath immediately after.
Following Zubiri, other members of the Senate majority also resigned from their leadership posts. Camille Samonte with the big story.
2 days before the second regular session of the 19th Congress officially closes, Senator Zubiri stepped down as Senate President after serving for 2 years.
Hindi ko tinanggap ang pagiging Pangulo ng Senado para lang hayaan na bumagsak ito. Today, I offer my resignation as Senate President of the Republic of the Philippines. And upon stepping down, I vow to serve as an independent member of the Senate. My allegiance as ever belonging only to the Filipino people. I leave with my head held high, knowing that I did what is right for the Senate and for the nation.
Zubiri was emotional when he made this announcement before his colleagues at the Senate plenary. In his speech, Zubiri alluded to the political forces behind his ouster.
I have never dictated my position on any of you. You know that. I've always supported your independence, which is probably why I face my demise today. I failed to follow instructions from the powers that be. I fought the good fight. If I've ruffled some feathers in doing so, then so be it.
The Senate leadership has been hounded by coup rumors for months now, mostly in relation to talks on charter change. The speculations intensified over the weekend. Before the plenary session even opened today, Senator Joel Villanueva confirmed that leadership changes in the chamber is part of the agenda. Right after Zubiri's speech, Villanueva also resigned as Senate Majority Leader. He was joined by other members of the Senate leadership, J.V. Ejercito stepping down as Deputy Majority Leader, and Lauren Legarda as Senate President pro tempore. Senators close to Zubiri could not hide their emotions over the announcement.
Sa bandang huli, isa lang po ang ating pinipili, ang ating minamahal na Pilipinas. Being part of the leadership, Madam President, carries a cost, requiring leaders to be ready to consistently make sacrifices, prioritizing the interest of their organization, institution, or even their country above their own self-interest. And so today, Madam President, I tender my resignation.
I think there's no reason, of course, emotions may dictate that they bow their heads, but there's no reason to bow their heads. Talagang, I think, when all is said and done, when history is written, wala silang ikakahiya. They stood on the right side of history.
Once the Senate leadership posts were vacated, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano moved to nominate Senator Escudero for Senate President.
May I, with all humility but with pride, nominate someone I respect, I admire, and look forward to. I look forward to him being our leader, and I look forward that I will be able to contribute and do my part. May I respectfully and humbly nominate Francis Escudero as Senate President.
The senators were not able to vote on this as Senator Jingo Estrada immediately moved to close the nomination. Escudero accepted his nomination and immediately took his oath. In his speech, Escudero thanked Zubiri.
Una sa lahat, nais kong pasalamatan si Senate President Zubiri sa kanyang talino, sa kanyang galing, sa kanyang pasensya, sa kanyang kasipagan, sa kanyang hindi may pagkakailang pagmamahal sa bayan at gayon din sa institusyong ito at sa ating mga kababayan. Hindi matatawaran at hindi kayang sabihin sa maikling talumpati ni Senate President Zubiri ang lahat ng mga tagumpay na nakamit niya sa loob na mahigit 2 taon at gayon din lahat ng mga pagbabagong nagawa niya sa loob at labas ng bulwagang ito. I salute you and I hope I will make you proud, you especially among all our other colleagues. And hopefully, you will not leave my side whenever I ask for guidance, whenever I ask for help, and whenever I ask for your wisdom. Walang my team, walang your team para sa akin. Walang SP Migs, wala ring cheese para sa akin. Ang tingin ko sa bawat isa sa atin ay mga miyembro ng nag-iisang Senado. Maraming salamat po muli sa tiwala.
Senator Francis Tolentino is meanwhile named the new Senate Majority Leader, while Senator Jingo Estrada will take over the Senate Pro Tempore post. For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
Along with the abrupt change of leadership, several senators also resigned their committee chairmanships this afternoon. This is to give the new Senate President room to designate his team. Senator Sonny Angara announced his resignation as chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Youth, and as head of the Subcommittee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes. This committee is currently hearing the resolution of both Houses number 6 or RBH 6, which seeks to amend the economic provision of the 1987 Constitution. Senator Nancy Binay also gave up chairmanship of the Senate Committees on Ethics and Privileges, Accounts, and Tourism. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano was named chairman of the Accounts Committee. Meanwhile, Senator J.V. Ejercito announced his resignation as head of the Senate Committees on Local Government and Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement. But no changes in the opposition. Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel declared that he and Senator Risa Hontiveros will remain in the minority bloc.
We say it's a surprise shakeup because none of us in the media, at least at One News, saw this coming today. But political insiders say the administration has been unhappy with Senator Zubiri's leadership for some time. The straw that broke the camel's back, apparently, is the Senate probe over the alleged PDA leaks that dragged President Marcos into the issue. At the May 13 hearing, Zubiri said the Marcos group was already angry at him for allowing the hearings led by Senator Bato de la Rosa to proceed under his watch.
Galit din yung Marcos Group sa akin, yung mga loyalists, dahil daw pinayagan kita mag-hearing na yung araw na ito at nung nakarang ilang 2 linggo. While we respect the committee's right to perform oversight functions in aid of legislation, I caution our colleagues to be very careful not to use the hearings in aid of political persecution.
After 4 hearings, De La Rosa had yet to establish drug links to the president. And today, while Zubiri announced his resignation, Senator De La Rosa was visibly upset and was caught on camera looking anguished. Senator Zubiri spoke to the media after resigning, wherein he said he saw his ouster coming as early as mid last week. What he didn't see coming was the betrayal of some colleagues who apparently had been pledging false allegiance to him up to the last minute.
Medyo masama ng loob ko dahil meron pa mga nagte-text sa akin, we're with you, full support po kami. Kami po ay, 100% sa iyo. Wala pang isang araw, wala lang nagawa. Ang hirap talaga maging politiko. Yung nakipag-usap sa akin, yung nag-traitor sa akin.
Definitely a lot to unpack from today's change of leadership at the Senate, and we have our guest tonight to help us with that. He is the Upper Chamber's new Senate President Pro Tempore, Jingo Estrada, joining us over the line. Good evening, Senator.
Good evening, Rina. Good evening, Jackson.
Senator, quite a topsy-turvy Monday for the Senate today. So many changes and a lot of questions arise as to how those changes erupted today. First, First of all, is it true that you were one of those in the running for Senate President along with Senator Cheese and Senator Lauren? And how did the Senate arrive at this decision?
No, that's not true. I was not in the running for the Senate presidency together with Senator Escudero and Senator Legarda. That's not true.
Okay, what led the Senate to make these changes?
Well, there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of factors, but that I cannot divulge in public. It just happened in in just approximately 2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days.
Yes, and as a veteran legislator, I've been a witness to a lot of change of leadership in the Senate. Ganyan talaga yan. Minsan, isa, dalawang araw, magkakaayusan na. Pero change leadership.
Well, Senator Mig Zubiri did have quite an emotional speech today. He said he defended a staunchly independent Senate. And sabi niya, dahil daw ito sa he was not following instructions. Of course, this puts into question also the independence of the Senate, does it not?
Well, I believe in the leadership of Senate President Zubiri, and I also believe in the capability of our new Senate President, Senate President Escudero. Of course, he will not want to surrender the independence of the Senate as an institution. I doubt that will happen.
Senator, can I just clarify a few things? You said 2 to 3 days it was decided on. Who triggered the conversations? How did it come about?
Well, I never called up anybody. I'm not a part of it. It was Senator Escudero who gave a phone call to me. And we discussed a lot of matters.
When he called you, had it been decided that Senator Escudero was going to be Senate President next?
No, we were talking a lot of things about the Senate President, about the Senate presidency. And he confided to me, he intimated to me that he's interested in the Senate presidency.
Okay, and then what happened then? Did you say that you would support him?
Yes, eventually.
Because Senator Zubiri is alluding to some people who are apparently pledging allegiance to him via text, but then turns out he did not have the votes in the end.
Well, I'm not one of them.
Okay. And then, Senator, this isn't the first time that there have been efforts to oust Senate President Zubiri. I mean, as far back as last year, we had been hearing of these rumors. What was different this time around? I know you said there are issues, but what was to borrow from my script, what was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Well, I cannot answer that, no? But all I know is that if you have 13, the magic number is 13, because it's only the majority of the Senate that can propel you to the Senate presidency. As long as you have the numbers, and Senator Cheese fortunately had the numbers when he talked to me. So, of course, I wanted to join the majority group of Senate President Escudero.
Oh, Senator, it's not just the talk on Chacha, but also rumors that it was the PDEA leaks investigation that led to this leadership change. Maaari po bang maging dahilan yon?
I don't know that. I don't think that is relevant.
All right.
Of ousting a Senate President.
How
in fairness and in defense to the Senate President, the Senate President does not meddle in our work as the chairman of our respective committees. It is the call of the committee chairman to conduct hearing or not to conduct it.
Kaya nga, Senator, but
he never dictated to us what to do. He never dictated to us to stop the hearing or whatnot. In fairness to Senate President Zubiri.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, that he had kept the Senate independent, that he had not meddled. But at the May 13 hearing for the PDEA leaks, the alleged PDEA leaks, si Senate President Zubiri mismo na nagsabi that there were some Marcos loyalists who were angry at him.
Well, Those are
for
plain
le-
and pure gossip.
I'm sorry?
Panay mo rin- Those are plain and pure gossip.
Okay.
If we're going to tend to believe in them, walang mangyayari. Panay chismis lang yan. Dahil sa pededics, kaya natanggal si Senate President. I don't think that's true.
Okay, Senator, how does this leadership change the priorities of the Senate? We know that the end of the second regular session is coming, this coming Friday. Is RBH number 6 on top of the list?
Well, we'll have to listen to the priority of the Senate President. And I think that we're going to support all the legislative measures of the palace.
What are your priorities as Senate President pro tempore?
Well, my committee, Defense Committee, I have to, right now, it is under the period of interpellation, the military uniform pension bill.
Senator, kung sakasakali, meron pa po bang sapat na oras para maipasa yung RBH number 6? Kasi yun nga po,
Right
recess
now,
na.
I don't think so. Maybe after the SONA. Maybe. But right now, we only have 2 days left.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
2 days left.
2 days. Yeah, nga,
We only
2
have
days
2
left
days
before
left.
you break for Siniday, and then you resume for the President's State of the Nation address. So you don't
Yes.
think, yeah.
We won't be able to pass it. It's impossible.
Sa next session, I mean.
After the SONA, maybe.
Senator, sabi po ni Senator Zubiri, anti-chacha daw si Senator Cheese. I hope people who supported him know that. What do you have to say to that?
He's saying that Senator Escudero is anti-chacha.
Opo.
Karamihan ng mga senador, I think majority of my colleagues are against the change of the Constitution, against Charter change.
What are your thoughts on RBH number 6?
Well, that has to be discussed thoroughly, has to be debated extensively, and of course, we still have to conduct a lot of consultations with the stakeholders concerned.
Is there not a commitment to the lower house to get this done within a timeline, within a specified timeline? Because this was supposed to have been the compromise, diba? RBH was supposed to have been the compromise. So at this point,
I
you
don't
don't...
think there is an agreement between the Senate and the House of Representatives with regard to the timeline.
You are not aligned when it comes to charter change. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Excuse me?
You're not aligned. The lower house and the upper house are not aligned when it comes to charter change, when it comes to constitutional amendments to the...
Well, that's safe to say.
Okay. And sorry, what did you say, Senator? It's fair to say.
Yes, it's safe to say.
Okay. So this is then safe to say as well that this is not going to be a priority after the Senate resumes session.
Well, I did not say that that is not a priority. Well, it depends on the Senate President if he will push his colleagues to speeden up the passage of RBH 6. But right now, the committee, which was headed before by Senator Sonia Angara, I think Senator Angara is doing a good job of going around the country to conduct hearings and consultations with the stakeholders concerned.
Senator, do you know if you were the first person that Senate President Chief Escudero called?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
We're just trying to piece together the timeline here.
No, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we look forward to the events that are to come in your appointment as Senate President pro tempore. Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Story.
Thanks
Senator
for your time, Senator.
Jingo Estrada. Well, up next, we will be speaking with UK Ambassador to the Philippines, Laure Beaufils, about what to expect as both sides work to enhance bilateral ties on trade and defense, including cooperation on the maritime domain. More details when the big story returns. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Amid rising geopolitical tensions, the UK and the Philippines have moved to elevate their defense and economic ties, and that's been reinforced by some high-profile visits to Manila from British Foreign Minister James Cleverly last August to the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy Richard Graham just this past February. But what concrete initiatives can we expect from the UK? Well, tonight we're honored to have UK Ambassador to the Philippines, Her Excellency Laure Beaufils. Ambassador, thanks for coming all this way to be with us in person.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Let's start from a big picture perspective. How would you describe UK-Philippines bilateral ties at the moment? It feels like there has been quite it's in overdrive at the moment, it feels.
It's certainly growing, expanding fast. I've been here for nearly 3 years now, and the embassy has grown significantly in that period of time, and the number of issues that we cover has also increased. So there are far more files that we're working on together, far more things where we're trying to deliver for the benefit of the Filipino people and the British people. And by your question, you reminded me of the meeting that the Foreign Secretary had with President Marcos, when President Marcos described the bilateral relationship as plain sailing. And at the time I thought, gosh, does he mean plain vanilla? But I think not. I think what he meant by that is that
it's smooth?
It's smooth. We're really like-minded. We see eye to eye on most everything, which means that my job here as an ambassador is great because I get to innovate and to think creatively about great things that the two countries can do together. And so it's really about always developing new concepts, new projects to deliver for both countries.
A memorandum of understanding for 5 years has been signed between the UK and the Philippines, referring to maritime domain, enhancing partnership when it comes to that, identifying that as a priority, and also other defense engagements. What exactly does that, what is the scope of that?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that as the UK, we're also a maritime country. So we've got a lot of understanding of what are the challenges that maritime countries face. And we've got a big navy and lots of interest in collaboration on maritime law and maritime domain awareness, or IUUF, which is illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing. And so there's a lot that we can do together. But the MOU that you were referring to is specifically a defense MOU, and it really opens the door for more training, more ship visits. We've seen a lot more ship visits in the last year and a half than we'd done in the last 10 years, quite frankly. and that means more exercises together, and then projects that are also around supporting capability enhancements, so supporting Horizon 3 in particular, and supporting the Philippines as it increases its deterrence capability.
Does that cover an exchange of tangible assets? For instance, are we purchasing more warships, frigates, other Navy assets? Does that cover it?
Exactly. So it's not necessarily frigates or warships, but there will be different, possibly jets or different tools that are going to be in the pipeline that we hope the Philippines will purchase from the UK.
Very, very curious to know about what you'd like to do when it comes to strengthening maritime law enforcement. Because as we know, when it comes to the 2016 arbitral award, one of the sectors that's been, one of the issues with it rather, is the ability to enforce what has been awarded to the Philippines. I mean, how does Britain see maritime law enforcement?
I think the first thing to say here is that we view the Philippines' approach in the last year and a half as very successful. So what has been called strategic transparency, which to all intents and purposes is about shining a light on what's happening in the West Philippine Sea. And they say sunshine is the best disinfectant, don't they? So shining a light and then internationalizing the issue. So making more and more countries, such as the UK, but others as well, aware of what's happening, in part also through having so many international journalists on Filipino Coast Guard ships. And so it's made the news across lots of our media houses, raised not just the attention of government, but of citizens across the world. And I think that's been really, really powerful. So continuing to do that in a fashion that is measured, considered, and cautious, I think is really, really powerful. And in so doing, we're all learning about UNCLOS, about the 2016 arbitral award, which quite frankly, henceforth, had you not been a Philippine specialist or an UNCLOS specialist, you might not have heard about the 2016 arbitral award. And I think more and more people do know about that, which is really important. I would also surmise that it's important to work with a variety of partners on this, which has been the Philippines' approach to diversify partnerships, to support not just bilateral engagements with the big partners, but more partners, because everyone brings to different strengths to bear, different relationships to bear, and different perspective. I'd say it's also very important to continue to work with ASEAN partners and friends, because ultimately these are the Philippines' neighbors, and it is important that ASEAN continues to also take a strong position on issues of international law in the West Philippine Sea and more broadly the South China Sea.
You're right. You're actually one of the most vocal. Every time there's been a run-in in the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea, on X, on formerly Twitter, we would see you post about it, calling for a rules-based international order, referring to the arbitral ruling, and then I've seen you speak as well at public forums about the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Does that then affect your own relationship with China?
Well, it does. I mean, every time we are seen to condemn China, as I have done in some of my tweets in the past, that affects the relationship. But we're very careful that we also engage with China on a bunch of other issues where we have a lot in common, and that might be everything from climate change and biodiversity and pandemic preparedness. But we have to be able to also speak out when there are issues that we think are not compatible with international law or that we feel strongly about. And so that is what we do. I think that is our role as a responsible international player. You mentioned the rules-based international system. That is really at the heart of our vision for the modern world. Without the rules-based international system, which I see a little bit as the scaffolding of the world, then everything crumbles and falls apart. So we believe that we are responsible for making sure that it's adhered to, and we will speak out when that's not the case.
We saw His Majesty ship Spey come here last February for a military exercise. What else can we expect?
Well, you can expect HM Spey to come back. She's a ship that is always in this region, so is persistent presence. And she and her sister ship will be coming back to the Philippines for more exercises in the years to come, and more engagement and training, and possibly new things that we haven't seen yet between the UK and the Philippines too in the months to come.
Is this an exchange between navies?
Yes.
Specifically navies?
Yes, exactly. Spey's a Royal Navy ship.
Okay, what can we cooperate on in terms of maritime domain?
Well, so maritime domain is more about, I'd say, hydrographic. So right now, I think just this week in the Philippines, we have our UK Hydrographic Office that's here, that's helping to support some of the mapping of the sea, so that it's more useful for the Filipino Navy to be able to know exactly what the lay of the land is, so to speak. So that's on the maritime domain awareness. But on the capability point, it's much more about interoperability. Can never pronounce that word.
Neither can we.
Sorry?
Neither can we.
Ooh, it's a challenging one. And about potentially joint sales and continuing to make the relationship grow from strength to strength.
So lots to look forward to as far as maritime cooperation is concerned.
Exactly. And this year we were once again observers to exercise Balikatan.
Right.
One day, hopefully, we will be participants.
I was going to ask, will the UK actively participate then?
Let's see. I think the participation of the French this year paved the way for more participants that don't yet have a VFA with the Philippines, and hopefully we will also be moving in the direction of a VFA at one point as well.
Let's shift over to the economic side of things. I looked up the latest economic data, trade between the two countries, and I believe it's to the tune of 2.8 billion pounds. Total trade that covers both imports and exports between the UK and the Philippines. That's as of last quarter of last year. I mean, it sounds like there we have it. It's an increase of 8.1% on year. But what that also tells us is the Philippines is the UK's 59th largest trading partner, so pretty far down the list. Why is that, and what can we do to bring that up?
So why is that? I mean, it's in part historical relations, right? So the UK was less well known to the Philippines as many other countries, and vice versa. We know other countries in the region much better, Commonwealth countries, for example, Malaysia, Singapore, or even countries that weren't Commonwealth, like Thailand for tourism reasons, etc. So the relationship with the Philippines is growing fast. I think 8% increase a year is not negligible, but it's not starting from the highest level. And so our job is to make it continue to grow. And this is where I think it's important to talk about the potential, but also all that we are doing across both governments to increase that trade. So I'll give you a few examples, if I may. We used to be members of the European Union, and in leaving the European Union, we took what was the trading scheme that the EU had with the Philippines, GSP+, and we held a wide consultation to develop our own trading scheme, which is now called the DCTS, Developing Countries Trading Scheme. And it builds on GSP+, but what it does is it further adds product lines or simplifies rules of origin, etc., to enable more exports from the Philippines to the UK. So there'll be many more products that get to the UK duty-free. So that's going to be one boost of exports. We're also developing what we hope will be quite a transformational agreement between the two governments, which will be enabling access to £4 billion of export finance that we as the UK have allocated just for the Philippines. So that £4 billion is sitting to support British exporters in exporting to the Philippines. So there's huge opportunity to tap into that when we get that G2G agreement.
What areas would that cover?
It would cover every area as long as the government is supportive of that.
Is this the development financing you're looking at?
So development finance is something else, and I'll come to that in a minute. Well, I can refer to that now. We have a new initiative that was launched here in the Philippines by then Secretary Jokno just last year when our Minister for Asia came, which we called British Investment Partnerships. that is basically about getting development finance into the Philippines, and in particular in green infrastructure in the Philippines. And we have a new development finance institute called British Investment International that is now working on the Philippines, which wasn't the case before. That's already done an investment in renewable energy, and I was talking to them today. They are looking at 3 other big renewable energy projects in their pipeline. So lots of exciting initiatives. And finally, for the first time, we're going to have a joint economic and trade committee chaired by our respective ministers of trade in the UK and the Philippines that identifies sectors where we want to further turbocharge our trade, and really then thinks about, okay, what can we unlock in terms of trade barriers or in terms of boosting a particular area of engagement. So it'll focus on renewable energy, infrastructure, agriculture, tech, as some of the key sectors that we're really going to invest in.
Just very curious to find out, what's the #1 export of the Philippines to the UK, and what is the #1 import of the Philippines from the UK?
So lots of agricultural exports from the Philippines, as well as electronics from the Philippines. And then, interestingly enough, the electronics goes both ways.
Oh, okay.
So we also have lots of electronics from the Philippines, from the UK to here. But defense is also increasing from the UK to the Philippines. And then there's a lot more happening so quickly in the tech space as well.
It sounds like it. And I was going to ask you about London Tech Week. And that's always a big project of the embassies. Talk us through it. What's happening this year?
So London Tech Week, we like to describe as a tech festival. So it's happening the first week of June. It brings together some of the world's best innovators, visionaries, in the space of tech, with big tech companies, with financiers, with government people. And it's just an extraordinary exchange of ideas and a bit of matchmaking between venture capitalists and tech innovators, matchmaking between the big tech companies that are looking for new solutions. So that's what it's all about. And we're really excited to host that because as the UK, we are a $1 trillion tech economy. So there's only 2 other countries in the world that have that. That's the US and China. And so tech is really at the heart of what the UK, the economy is about now. And we think it can be part of the conversations that we have in the Philippines across everything that we do, whether it's work that we do on cyber or on climate or on trade and health. It's really such an important cross-cutting theme. So for London Tech Week, you'll have quite a few Filipino companies coming to the UK.
You're bringing a delegation to
That's
London
right,
Tech Week.
exactly. Some of them will be speaking at different events. Some, like Kickstart Venture or Venture Capital Fund from the Philippines, will be introducing them to lots of tech companies to see if they want to invest in them. And some others are big companies like Globe, going there to see, okay, are there new technologies that would be useful for our business that we can buy into and bring back home? So hopefully a fun
Is this
week.
open to everyone?
Well, it's not open
By
to
invite.
everyone.
By
By
invite.
invite, yes,
All right.
exactly. So get in
When
touch
is that-
if you're interested.
when is that happening?
The 4th of June from memory.
I'd like also to talk about, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Chevening,
Sure.
scholarships.
That's
What's
right.
going on in the education space?
So, well, Chevening is our flagship scholarship program, and it offers fully funded master's programs for students in the subject of their choice in the university
It's always
of
been
their
popular.
choice. And it is very popular because it's a generous scholarship. So it provides not just tuition, but stipend. And as I said, it's entirely flexible. So you are not constrained in terms of the subject or the university you apply for, and we just want the most talented student to go. We love it because we have some like 35 Filipino students a year that go to the UK. They generally fall in love with the UK. There might be a few things that they are surprised about, but generally they come back and they're great champions for the UK. And for us, it strengthens those bridges. And there's so many young people, or not so young, that come back and strengthen links on the creative industries or on social policy or anything from.
It takes a year though to apply for that, right? When's application period?
So the application period, gosh, I should know that by heart, but I don't. So I'm a bit embarrassed.
Gretchen's looking into it. Don't worry, she'll be on your
I'll come back
website
to
right
you.
after
I
this.
might find romance. Just kidding.
You're welcome.
We will have to leave that there for now. A bit of a cliffhanger, but it is what it is. Thank you so much for your time tonight, UK
Thank you for
Ambassador
having
to
me.
the Philippines, Laure Beaufils.
Thank you.
A lot to look forward to.
Indeed.
Up next, Duterte administration officials were no-show at today's House hearing on the alleged gentleman's agreement with China. More details on that when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here at One News. The House hearing on the alleged gentleman's agreement between former President Duterte and Chinese President Xi Jinping has commenced. However, officials from the previous administration who were invited to testify did not show up. Marin Enriquez has that story tonight.
Not a single official from the Duterte administration attended the House Joint Committee hearing on the alleged gentleman's agreement between former President Rodrigo Duterte and Chinese President Xi Jinping. This absence clearly disappointed lawmakers.
Nakakaramdam po ang inyong lingkod na parang umiiwas yung ating mga opisyales ng nakarang administrasyon. At wag silang umiwas sa usapin na ito dahil isang malaking isang malaking usapin lalong-lalo na patungkol sa ating soberanya at national territory.
Invitations were sent to former Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, former National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr., and former Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea. However, only Medialdea responded, sending a letter and a representative explaining that he had a prior commitment.
If it needs to be, then we will use our powers under the Constitution to compel them to come here.
Some congressmen also called for the invitation of former President Rodrigo Duterte, as well as his former spokespersons Salvador Panelo and Harry Roque. But Representative Raul Tupas, chairperson of the National Defense and Security Committee, believes otherwise.
There is no need to invite the former president as long as nakukuha naman yung information coming from the current policymakers as well as yung sa former.
The committee has since issued a show cause order requiring Esperon and Lorenzana to explain their absence. Meanwhile, the former commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard maintained that there was no mention of a gentleman's agreement concerning the West Philippine Sea.
During my time, from 2016 to 2022, we have not heard of any gentleman's agreement between the two presidents. Otherwise, it could have been cascaded down to us as the forefront agency in our quest towards protecting our sovereignty and sovereign rights in the South China Sea and West Philippine Sea.
The Justice Department, on the other hand, was asked whether it would be legal if the agreement included the removal of the BRP Sierra Madre or stopping its repair.
Any agreement that violates our constitution, okay, violates the highest law of the land, okay, would be illegal.
According to the DOJ, if there was an agreement between the previous administration and the Chinese government, it has been rescinded or nullified. Consequently, the Philippine Coast Guard requested that the hearing be concluded as soon as possible, stating that it only causes division among Filipinos. Congress, however, did not agree to this move.
If it is proven that there was that agreement, shouldn't there be accountability, Mr. Chair? Because that would be betrayal of the Constitution.
The Committee on National Defense and the Special Committee on the West Philippine Sea will continue their hearings tomorrow. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
The Interior Department has asked NAPOLCOM to revoke Bamban Mayor Alice Guo's control over the police in her jurisdiction. The LNG Secretary Benhur Abalos says an investigation into Guo's alleged involvement in illegal pogos is also underway.
Ibig sabihin nito, pagkatapos nga ng investigasyon nito, of course may sufficient grounds, we will withdraw the deputization of Mayor Guo.
The DILG also recommended that Guo be placed under preventive suspension, citing serious illegal acts. The DILG only made a recommendation as it has no power to suspend the mayor. Only the Ombudsman and the Sangguniang Panlalawigan are authorized to do so. The agency says it has already submitted a fact-finding report to the Ombudsman. And we are ending the show on a rather somber note with our big picture tonight. This is the helicopter crash site where Iran President Ibrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Hossein Amirabdollahian, and 7 others perished. Their chopper crashed in a mountainous region northwest of Iran. Heavy fog made search and rescue efforts as well as transporting the bodies difficult. There's no official word yet on what caused the helicopter crash, but in the meantime, Iran has declared 5 days of mourning. Its cabinet has convened and its first vice president, Mohammad Mokber, has been appointed acting president until Iran holds an election for the presidency within 50 days. Now, prior to his death, Raisi has been seen as a strong contender to be the next supreme leader of Iran, replacing Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has held the position since 1989.
I think that's what makes this a lot more shocking because he was seen as the next, potentially one of the next leaders, right? For and then, of course, this raises a lot of questions about Iran and its transfer of power at this point in time.
And we do know that Iran has also been embroiled in so many
at
conflicts.
At the moment, it is heavily involved in the Israel-Hamas war. So, again, there's that question of what's going to happen to that.
It does feel like a movie of
You're
sorts.
right, diba? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was asking our defense editor if this was an accident. And he said, so far, it looks like an accident.
It looks like
but
it.
They're still looking into it.
But I'm sure there will also be conspiracy theorists who will spout all sorts of, conspiracies around what happened. But who knows, right? They may be true, they may be not. I don't know. But it is a sad day for Iranians indeed.
Shocking news on a Monday.
Yeah.
Busy Monday.
Big News Monday.
Well, that's it for the show tonight. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.